secularists are targeting our children. You may be surprised by who wrote this statement. Quote, "It is in the minds and hearts of our children that the battle will be fought." End of quote. Now it sounds like something a Christian would write. After all, God's word clearly instructs us to train up our children to raise godly offspring. Proverbs 22:6, Malachi 2:15, Isaiah 48:19, Ephesians 6:4. In Joshua 4, God had the Israelites build a memorial of 12 stones so that when children saw them and asked the meaning of these stones, their fathers would not forget to tell them what God had done. For example, the miracle of the crossing of the Jordan River. It was not a Christian, however, who made the above comment. It was a secular humanist who toured our Creation Museum with many other atheists. After going through the museum and observing the resources in our Dragon Hall bookstore, including many materials for children, this secularist wrote on a blog, quote, "For me, the most frightening part was the children's section. It was at this moment that I learned the deepest lesson of my visit to the museum. It is in the minds and hearts of our children that the battle will be fought." End of quote. Christians must understand the nature of the change that has occurred in our culture. No longer do the secularists just mock Christians from afar. They are now actively campaigning to indoctrinate children in an anti-God philosophy to teach them to be secularists and atheists. These secularists are no longer passive. They accuse Christians who are training their children in biblical truths of being child abusers. Some even liken Christianity to a deadly virus. Of the people who have visited the museum and the Ark, we have had quite a number who have been secularists or atheists. They frequently express their dismay that the many children they see at the attractions are being influenced by biblical teaching. These secularists want to capture the hearts and minds of all children. They want to indoctrinate them in an anti-God, anti-Christian worldview. It really is a spiritual battle. One secular humanist professor said he was worried about the Creation Museum because, quote, "children may come away confused, and that means we'll have a harder job convincing them," quote. You see, this professor wants to take your children and indoctrinate them against God, and he was furious that the Creation Museum had made his teaching job, to indoctrinate kids in the religion of atheism, harder. Many Christians' eyes were opened when we released a book titled Already Gone in 2009. It summarized a nationwide survey conducted to find out why 2/3 of young people were leaving the church. Something shocking came to light, that of those who left the church, if they attended Sunday school regularly as kids, they were actually worse off. That is, they were more likely to become anti-church, more inclined to defend abortion and gay marriage, and more likely to believe in evolutionism and millions of years than those who didn't go to Sunday school regularly. Now, many Christians were shocked at this, but actually it didn't shock me. One of the main reasons is that most Sunday school curricula only teaches disconnected Bible stories. I don't like the word story as it means fairy tale to many in today's vernacular. They don't teach how we know the Bible is true, how to defend the faith, and how to answer the skeptical questions of today. The Bible is not really taught as a book of history that can be trusted where it touches on geology, biology, anthropology, and so on. The Bible is not a book of stories, it's a book of history. About 90% of children from church homes go to public schools. Monday through Friday, they are taught an atheistic belief system regarding the history of the universe. But when they go to Sunday school, by and large, they aren't taught how to answer anti-biblical teaching or how to defend the history in Genesis. In fact, many church leaders simply tell these children they can believe in evolution and or millions of years. The children see the inconsistency. If they can't trust the first part of the Bible, how can they believe the gospel message about Jesus that comes from the same Bible? By the way, there are a minority of churches that do teach God's word beginning in Genesis, as they should, but they are a minority. Well, Answers in Genesis is producing more and more curricula for all ages so that churches can deal with this crisis of young people leaving the church, and instead help families to raise up generations who can defend the Christian faith. We also developed an entire Sunday school curriculum based on apologetics, creation, biblical authority, and the gospel for all age levels. It's now used in thousands of churches. The secularists are right. Quote, "It is in the minds and hearts of our children that the battle will be fought." End of quote. Protect your children by bringing them to the Ark Encounter and Creation Museum and obtaining AIG apologetics curricula and resources. We need the right type of weapons for our generations today to be equipped for the culture war raging around us. We all need to be diligent to do all we can to keep our children from being captured by the evil one. For the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but have divine power to destroy strongholds. We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God, and take every thought captive to obey Christ, being ready to punish every disobedience when your obedience is complete. 2 Corinthians 10, 4-6. The book Already Gone was published in 2009 based on research we did in regard to why young people were leaving the church, why the generational loss from the church. That research is still as relevant today as it was then. It's very eye-opening, and it really comes down to the fact that generations have not been taught how to defend the faith and have also been allowed to compromise God's word in Genesis and ended up walking away from the Christian faith. This is an eye-opening book for the church.